We need to find a place to cross this stream, Ray.
All right, well, look up ahead there, Jeff. There's a fallen tree laying across the brook. We can cross there.
Yeah, that could work.
Well, what's the matter?
Well, I feel like this has all happened here before. I mean, out in the woods of Warren, New Hampshire. I don't know. I feel uneasy.
What is that? That foggy, wispy shape on the other side of the tree.
Oh, man. Stuff like this is bound to happen when you go looking for the Wizard of Warren. I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to episode 80 of the New England Legends podcast. If you give us about 10 minutes, we'll give you something strange to talk about today.
And I'm Ray Auger. We're on a mission to chronicle every legend in New England 1 week and one story at a time. We're glad you're with us on this legend trip.
We are.
So you don't miss a thing, you should subscribe to our podcast for free on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And also, do us a favor, tell a friend or two about our show. Post a link on social media or stop people in the street and say, hey, check out this podcast.
Absolutely. And post a review for us on iTunes. That's still the biggest way that people find out about our show.
All right, Jeff, so we're in Warren, New Hampshire, which
Yep.
is located on the western edge of the White Mountain National Forest. Fun few facts about Warren. Did you know there's a town named Warren in each of the 6 New England states?
Well, I know it now.
And according to the most recent census, the population is 904.
So this is a small town.
It is, but this small town features something on its town common that I can honestly say I've never seen on any other town green or common in any of the towns we've been to.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. Should we go have a look? Oh my God. Yep, I am right there with you, Ray. I have never seen something like that in any other town. I'm used to seeing tall church steeples, flagpole statues, but this...
Yeah, we're looking at a 73-foot tall redstone missile pointing skyward in the town common.
Oh my God.
It's painted black and white and has the USA in red down the side.
Now, how did that get here?
Well, it's a funny story. The redstone missiles were built to be short-range ballistic missiles. They could carry a warhead about 175 miles and were in service mainly in Europe during the Cold War between 1958 and 1964.
Okay.
A modified version of this missile was used to launch New Hampshire native Alan Shepard into suborbital flight, making him the second person and first American into space.
Okay, I get that. But Alan Shepard was born in Derry, New Hampshire.
Right. And we're a pretty good distance north of Derry.
Right.
So in the early 1970s, this local Warren man named Ted Aslan was stationed in the U.S. Army at Redstone Arsenal in Alabama.
Okay.
He saw these surplus missiles lying in a grassy field, so he asked if he could, take one home to Warren and put it on display.
Live free or die indeed.
So the Army agreed as long as the missile was gutted of its engine and guidance systems.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the weight you could throw around with other towns when negotiating things like water rights and trash removal. Well, sure, we could pay an increase, or, then you just gesture toward the missile on the town common.
Yeah, but that might be more power than a small town could handle. But not the U.S. Army.
Right.
So the Army tells Aslan, as long as it doesn't cost him any money to deal with it, Warren can have the missile.
Okay.
So Aslan agreed, and the town of Warren agreed, and mostly at his own expense. Aslan got the missile up here in 1971, where it's been on display ever since.
Okay, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
And kind of legendary. But we're here to look for something else, so maybe we should head back to the woods and look for our wizard.
All right, so we're hiking up the stream, and we're looking for a wizard?
That we are.
Okay.
This quest began because I was searching for an entirely different legend when I came across a copy of the book History of Warren, New Hampshire by William Little.
All right.
It was published in 1854, and it included all kinds of information about the town, stuff you'd expect, like founding families, businesses, things like that. But the book also included a story of a strange ghost and another of a dangerous wizard, both from colonial times right here in Warren. And I'd never heard these legends before, so we had to investigate.
All right, so you're telling me, and let me just do some calculating here.
Okay.
Franklin Pierce was president the last time someone wrote about this wizard and ghost?
Yeah, I guess that would be true.
That seems like a cold case at best, but let's go back and set this up.
The town of Warren incorporated in 1770, so we're talking about the earliest days of the town when it was mostly just a few clearings, some homes, some farms, and less than 200 people.
It's both sparse and spread out.
And that's when a young man makes a lengthy walk to see his lady love. The couple while away the day, chatting and flirting. When you're young and in love, time moves at a different rate, doesn't it?
So true. So as the couple talk, the sun sets without either of them noticing. When the night settles, the couple soon realizes it's past time for the young man to leave. But fortunately, there's a full moon out that night, so he can make his way through the otherwise dark forest and get himself home.
So lighthearted and in love, he almost skips from her house back toward the forest and his home. He's already counting the moments when he can see her again. But little does he know, he'll be seeing her again much sooner than he thought.
The young man makes his way to the stream where he finds his only way across is a fallen log. Stepping carefully through the moonlight, he begins to make his way over the log. That's when he sees something. There, on the other side of the log, he sees this white, airy, wispy figure floating.
Ooh.
He'd later describe the figure as anything but earthly.
The man stares at this ghostly specter for a moment before he backs off the log and sidesteps just a few paces down the stream.
But then the spirit across from him does the same thing on the other side. Only now the specter floats forward and is standing on the water.
And now the young man is nervous. This is no longer a strange sighting. It's a confrontation with something not of this mortal world. He jumps back on the log, ready to dash across, but the ghost makes the same move, blocking his way. It's a standoff. The young man's heart pounds in his chest. Filled with terror, the man turns and runs back to the young lady's house. He pounds on the door. The young man cowers inside until morning light before making his way back home under the safety of sunshine.
By morning, that unearthly specter was gone, and the man makes his way home, forever shaken by his encounter.
From here, we make our way across town to a remote house in the woods of Warren. We're still in the colonial time period, a time before there was talk of revolution, a time when folks were just trying to survive, grow their farms, and provide for their families.
All right, picture this.
Okay.
There's an old-timer who has a reputation for being a wizard.
Ooh.
He gets into some business dealings with another local man. We'll call him Charles.
Okay.
But something goes wrong. The old-timer feels cheated. An argument blows up near the center of town between the two men, and now the old-timer swears he'll get revenge.
Charles walks away angry, but slightly shaken because he knows the reputation of the old man. But not one to be too superstitious, he tries not to let the vow of revenge weigh on him too much.
A few days go by and everything seems okay at first, but then Charles's son starts acting strangely. Charles' son was born deaf, so his family is used to not being able to communicate with him very well.
Okay.
But the way the boy is acting, it's now unnatural.
What's he doing?
Well, his family sees him running along the ridge poles of barns, along the top beams of fences, something you and I couldn't do unless we had our arms out, balancing and moving at a snail's pace, inching our way along.
Oh, that is weird.
Then the boy starts writhing around in agony.
Ugh.
His family motions to him, asking what's wrong. The boy can't speak, but he does take his father by the hand across town and points to a house. Charles tries to get his son to knock on the door, but the boy refuses. He's petrified out of whatever might be inside that house waiting for him. That's when Charles realizes that this is the home of the old man, that the Wizard of Warren.
This agony with the boy goes on for several days until some neighbors whisper to Charles that they think they know what's going on. The boy is under some kind of spell.
But Charles doesn't believe in such things, but still, he's willing to humor his superstitious neighbors. So they draw a small quantity of the boy's blood, cork it up in a bottle, and place the bottle under the family's fireplace hearth. And the boy seems at peace again, just for the moment, though.
But suddenly, across town, the old man, that reported wizard, he starts bleeding from the nose.
Ooh.
It just won't stop. This continues for far too long until suddenly, and unnaturally, it just stops bleeding.
Back at Charles's house, they discover the cork is off the bottle, and the boy's blood has run out.
Once again, the boy falls under torment by some unseen force, only this time it's worse. Charles is beginning to change his opinion of witches and wizards and curses. Once again, he draws some of his son's blood, corks it in a bottle, and places it under the fireplace hearth. And again, the boy is calm.
And once again across town, the old wizard bleeds from the nose. He curses violently. He uses all of his power, and then the bleeding stops again.
And back at Charles's house, the cork is once again out of the bottle, and the boy's blood has run out.
Now this unholy attack ramps up to new heights. The boy violently thrashes around as if being punched by something that no one can see.
Oh, man.
This time, Charles and his neighbors draw a larger quantity of the boy's blood, place it in a larger bottle, and to make sure the cork remains in place, a small knife is pushed into the cork.
In the morning, the young boy awakes with a spring in his step. He's miraculously cured.
Wow.
And he makes signs that his tormentor must be dead. The family examines the bottle and finds the knife, the cork, and the blood are still in place. Except the knife seems to be pushed in a little deeper into the bottle, just past the cork.
And that wizard across town?
Yeah.
He died in the middle of the night.
Oh.
They find him white as a sheet in the morning and gaunt. He seems to have bled to death.
Which brings us back to today. Everything we know about this story comes from that 1854 book, History of War in New Hampshire by William Little.
It's such a strange and obscure story. It doesn't really turn up again. But I find it interesting that as this local historian was gathering all the information he could about this little town, he saw fit to include these legends. He gives them multiple pages of ink.
I love that he knew the town's folklore was as important to include as its charter, square mileage, and early residents. It's worth noting, though, that William Little placed no names to the people in this book.
So do you think that means he made up the stories?
Actually, in this case, Ray, I think it gives a little more credence to the stories. In such a small community that was less than 100 years old when this book was published, it's likely there were at one time names attached to each of these stories, but not wanting to upset any local families, Little chose to leave out all the names and any landmarks or addresses that could identify anyone. I mean, after all, Little had to continue living in town.
And here we are, 165 years later, traipsing through the woods by the stream in Warren, dusting off a legend that almost no one has talked about since Franklin Pierce was president.
It makes you wonder if maybe this legend is about ready to blow up again.
Blow up like a Redstone missile.
Ah, I see what you did there. It's funny how these stories come around, go dormant, and then get rediscovered.
Yeah.
As we mentioned earlier, I was looking up an entirely different story when I found this one.
Well, Jeff, sometimes it's just destiny.
And we hope to be part of your destiny each week. Every Thursday at noon for the past 80 consecutive weeks, we've brought you a new strange but true legend from New England, and we couldn't do it without the help of our patrons.
Now, for just $3 a month, you can get early access to new episodes, bonus episodes that no one else gets to hear, and you help grow this community.
Right.
Just head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up. Think of it as our tip cup, and each one is appreciated.
It definitely is. You can also find links to all of our past episodes, plus the New England Legends television series on PBS and Amazon Prime, on our website at ournewenglandlegends.com. And hey, our music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember, the bazaar is closer than you think.